Hello to those watching, listening, and reading this episode on the Food for the Faithful channel. If you're looking for simplistic answers to multivariate complex problems outside of the Christian perspective, you're in the wrong place. But if you're here to get some food fed to you, if you're faithful to God, stay tuned. We're going to delve into some deep topics that require a little bit of concentration, a little bit of understanding ideas that may seem odd to you at first glance. I have a deep need to understand the other. By this, I mean that rather than simply dismiss a perspective that I am temperamentally opposed to, or that lies outside of my own experiences, I try to understand the philosophical underpinnings of those whose ideas I find difficult to comprehend. I do so particularly if I find their ideas to be repugnant due to them being too fantastical, irrational, or immoral. The task of delving into something as complex as human behavior and social interaction is never simple. Only a simplistically minded person would ever try to reduce something this complex into a one-size-fits-all explanation for understanding the world and our relationship with one another in it. Nevertheless, this must not stop us from trying to understand the other's perspective, given the fact that war and conflict is the inevitable outcome of rational dialogue failing. I often write and speak about how the left tends to view humanity as coming into this world as an infinitely malleable, empty vessel. This concept is known as tabula rasa, which translates to blank slate in Latin, and was proposed by philosopher John Locke. It suggests that humans are born without any preconceived thoughts or knowledge, and that all knowledge comes from experience or perception. However, evolutionary psychologists often challenge this theory. They argue that humans are born with certain innate characteristics and instincts that influence their behavior and development. This is supported by evidence from psychologists and neurobiologists who have shown that the brain is initially programmed and organized to process sensory input, control motor actions, regulate emotions, and respond reflexively under predetermined conditions. In other words, while the environment and experiences do play a significant role in shaping our traits and actions, they are not the sole determinants. Our genetics and biology also have a substantial impact on our development, which contradicts the tabula rasa theory. This is why tabula rasa theory is often considered invalid by evolutionary psychologists. And I include all of the sources for that information below that portion of my blog. And you'll need to go to the blog to be able to see them for yourself. I don't ever ask people to believe what I'm saying. I've developed a lot of these ideas today using Bing AI, which is more current than the other versions of AI in that it can access information that is up to date on the web. Carl Jung, the founder of analytical psychology, also rejected the concept of tabula rasa. Instead, he proposed the theory of collective unconscious and archetypes. According to Jung, the collective unconscious is a part of the unconscious mind that is derived from ancestral memory. It is common to all human beings and contains archetypes, which are universal, inherited patterns of thought or symbolic imagery. These archetypes, which include the mother, the child, the trickster, among others, are seen in the myths, stories, and dreams of all cultures. They are not learned or consciously acquired, but are inherent potentials that influence our thoughts, behaviors, and experiences. Jung's theory suggests that our minds are not empty at birth, but are predisposed to perceive the world in certain ways and to have certain experiences. This contradicts the tabula rasa theory, which posits that all knowledge comes from experience or perception. In essence, Jungian psychology disproves tabula rasa theory by asserting that there are innate, universal aspects of the human psyche that shape our experiences and behaviors from birth. Again, all the sources underneath. Then my thoughts begin without using Bing. When I was still back in Norway, I had the distinct impression I wasn't in Kansas anymore, even as my own little version of Toto, a chihuahua named Mimo, would lead me out into the streets to wander aimlessly as I tried to acclimatize myself to the discomfort I was experiencing. The culture shock was extremely off-putting, so I had a deep want to know why I found Norwegian behavior to be so strange compared to the individualistic society which I had left. Despite every person that I met having their own distinct personality, under any given set of circumstances, Norwegians react to external stimuli in a frighteningly identical manner. Enter Danish author Mikkel Claire Nielsen, circa 2014, to help address why I found Norwegian society, specifically and Scandinavians more broadly, so odd. Mikkel Claire Nielsen is a Danish author who wrote a book called Manipulism and the Weapon of Guilt, Collectivism Exposed, which is a controversial expose and carefully detailed description of the emotional mind game that facilitates communism, socialism, and social liberalism known as collectivism. He claims that the book exposes Denmark, the supposed happiest nation on earth, for what it truly is, collectivism's biggest propaganda hoax. He also tells the hidden facts and realities of life in Denmark's democratic socialism that they never wanted you to know. Nielsen does not hold a degree in any form of psychotherapy, but he has dedicated over a decade to psychopathology, specializing in narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD. He argues that collectivism is a form of pathological narcissism that uses guilt as a weapon to manipulate people into conformity and obedience. We can see this running rampant through the woke culture today. So this brain pathogen that existed in Norway, when I came home in 2015, I saw that it had begun in a very real way to infect society here, and did so far faster than anything that had occurred in Scandinavia in the previous 50 years. He also criticizes the Danish welfare state as a system that breeds dependency, mediocrity, and resentment. Again, nothing could define Canada any better than that. Nielsen's book has received mixed reviews from readers and critics. Some praise it, as I have done, as a brave and insightful analysis of the dangers of collectivism and the importance of individualism. Others dismiss it as a biased and paranoid rant that misrepresents Denmark and socialism. And again, all the links from Bing included below that portion of the article. Now on to what I believe is the underpinning mindset of all social collectivism, tall poppy syndrome, or Janteloven. Tall poppy syndrome, TPS, Janteloven narcissism, and depression can intersect in complex ways, particularly in the context of social norms and individual mental health. Here's a psychological analysis of these traits, and this again is from artificial intelligence, Bing AI. Tall poppy syndrome, TPS. This is a social phenomenon where individuals who stand out due to their achievements or successes are criticized or resented. It's prevalent in societies where equality is highly valued, and it can lead to individuals being undermined, left out, or silenced after a success. This can result in a range of effects, including a loss of confidence, anxiety, depression, and relationship problems. And I've seen this happen in my own immediate family. Janteloven. This is a social code of conduct prevalent in Nordic countries that discourages individual success and promotes collective achievements. It is similar to TPS in that it can lead to individuals feeling belittled or cut down when they achieve success. Narcissism. This is a personality trait characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Narcissistic individuals may be more likely to engage in TPS or Janteloven behaviors as they may feel threatened by the success of others and seek to undermine them to maintain their perceived superiority. There's woke in a nutshell with the emphasis on nut. And depression. This is a serious medical illness that negatively affects how a person thinks, feels, and acts. Individuals who are victims of TPS or Janteloven or who have narcissistic tendencies may be at higher risk of developing depression. The constant criticism, belittlement, and undermining can lead to feelings of worthlessness, hopelessness, and which are key symptoms of depression. In conclusion, these traits can interact in a cyclical manner. The societal norms, represented by TPS and Janteloven, can foster narcissistic behaviors, which in turn can exacerbate TPS and Janteloven. This cycle can contribute to the development of mental health issues such as depression. And again, all the links from Bing. Back to my thoughts. It amazed me how easily predictable collective behaviors become when one denies their own individual and collective unconscious in favor of the socialist collective. Despite the infinite variety of personalities that exist in any population, once a person gives themselves over to what Nickel describes as narcissistic personality disorder, they will have managed to sever themselves from the animating powers of their own inner unconscious self to become robotic in their reaction to triggers. Let us review the psychological dangers of collectivism then in some of its better recognized forms, such as Nazism, given the frightening increase in anti-Semitism in the West today. Although Carl Jung's views on collectivism and Nazism are complex and nuanced, again, and this is with the help of Bing AI, this portion, he believed that this could lead to a severing or disconnect from the collective unconscious, which he defined as the part of the unconscious mind that contains shared ancestral experiences. Jung saw collectivism, including political movements like Nazism, as a potential threat to individuality. He believed that when individuals identify too strongly with a group or a collective ideology, that they risk losing touch with their individual unconscious, which includes the collective unconscious. This can lead to a kind of psychic imbalance, causing individuals to project their own unconscious contents onto others. Remember, projection is a key aspect here, which is why they're blaming the Jews for something that no Jew could have ever done to them. In the context of Nazism, Jung observed that the mass movement capitalized on the power of archetypal images and symbols to evoke strong emotional responses. However, he warned that such manipulation could lead to a loss of individual moral judgment and a disconnect from the collective unconscious. It is important to note that Jung's theories are a product of his time and should be understood within that context. His work continues to be debated and is interpreted in various ways within the field of psychology. In various ways. And now, Canada, indeed the entire West, has become infected by narcissistic projection. Wherever societal problem is projected onto the other. It is because of the con job of projection that instead of self-realization, collective blame and guilt are being externalized. No wonder, then, that anti-Semitism runs rampant among those who have given themselves over to what Dr. Gad Saad defines as idea pathogens. Dr. Gad Saad, a Canadian Lebanese evolutionary psychologist, professor, and author, has introduced the concept of idea pathogens in his book, The Parasitic Mind. He uses this term to describe harmful ideas, much like physical pathogens, can cause harm to individuals and societies. According to Dr. Saad, these idea pathogens are often incubated in universities and spread through the tyranny of political correctness. Examples of such idea pathogens include postmodernism and cultural relativism, the belief that every culture has equal value except our own. These ideas, he argues, are endangering our most basic freedoms, including freedom of thought and speech. Dr. Saad's main mission is to combat these idea pathogens, which he sees as a threat to rational debate and common sense. He believes that these harmful ideas can lead us into what he calls the abyss of infinite lunacy. And again, I provide all the sources from Bing. Christianity has nuanced views on personal accountability and individualism. And again, I use Bing to develop these ideas because it's amazing how truthful it will answer if you ask it correctly. Nuanced ideas, nuanced views on personal accountability and individualism, personal accountability. Christianity emphasizes personal accountability. According to biblical teachings, every individual will give an account of themselves to God. This concept of accountability is essential for any social system, including the church, which I think many churches should take a lesson from. It trains individuals in humility and honesty, which are important character traits for the followers of Christ. Individualism. Christianity recognizes the value of the individual who is created in the image and likeness of God. Every individual has a unique value to God and must therefore have a unique value to their fellow man. This is the underpinning idea of the entire West. Without this idea of the belief of the sacredness of human life, there can be no Western society, which is why, incidentally, our society is superior to any other that has ever existed, and that can be easily proven, and I will do so to anyone who wishes to challenge me, because I invite that debate. However, Christian faith is deeply personal but never individualistic. It draws a person into a saving, transforming relationship with God through Jesus Christ. The faith warns against the idolatry of the individual, which can distort the understanding of the gospel, which is why these idiots today that think that because they perceive themselves to be whatever they want, trans-testicle, hermaphrodite, double, triple, breast removed nut job, I don't know. But all of these things, those beliefs, literally, they're idolatry because they're deconstructing the nature of man, the God-given nature of man. In essence, while Christianity values the individual and emphasizes personal accountability, it also stresses the importance of community and communion with others in the faith. All the links provided here. My final summating thoughts. And therein lies the true balance between our voluntary association with those whom we choose to be in fellowship, with whom we choose to be in fellowship, and our individual worth before and our accountability to Him. It is my opinion that Jung's archetypes are images of divine creation. They form the God hole in our inner life, which is awaiting to be awakened when we repent and come to Christ, when He will take the stony heart out of our flesh to give us a new heart with His laws written upon it. From Ezekiel chapter 11, verses 19 and 20, from the King James Version. Verse 19. And I will give them one heart, and I will put a new spirit within you, And I will take the stony heart out of their flesh, and will give them an heart of flesh. 20. That they may walk in my statutes, and keep my ordinances, and do them. And they shall be my people, and I will be their God. Amen. And no one with the laws of God inscribed in their hearts projects blame onto others, or would be foolish enough to blame God's or God's people in the flesh or in the spirit for their own failings. Our individual walk with God and fellowship with the faithful are, in my opinion, the answer to avoiding what Dr. Sad calls the abyss of infinite lunacy, which has robbed the once Christian West of its spiritual foundations. These are things to think and pray about as this world becomes torn by war and conflict, because we can no longer understand what our common vision for the world was, which is indeed. In the West, it is based on Christ. Have a wonderful afternoon.